Hey, Speak Easy podcast listeners, super excited to talk to you today. It's your host, Altavis Felser, your voice manager. I unmute the voice of women who are ready to speak up about what has kept her silent for way too long. This Life After COVID series has taken on a mind of its own, guys. I'm excited because we've hit on some very interesting topics, some very necessary topics. And I think this particular episode is going to be one of those topics because when it comes to representation and having advocacy, someone to stand in and speak up when you need your voice heard, I think the seniors have really dealt with a lot throughout COVID, from the beginning to the end. Whenever that may be, their age bracket has been one where their voices are not necessarily being heard, or if it is, it's because they had somebody really fighting for them. So I'm excited to have my guest on today. Hello, Linda.
Hello, Altavis.
Now, I'm excited to have you on because I think representation is very important. And when we think about what our seniors have gone throughout this whole pandemic, what they're still going through, we think about, who really speaks for them, who's really talking for them. A lot of them, because of the pandemic and because of us having to social distance, they didn't have that representation. And it really, like, we on the outside looking in, seeing these different stories, it was really heart-wrenching. So before we get into today's topic, Linda, tell the studio audience a little bit about yourself and then we'll dive in.
Well, I'm 72 years old, so I've had a little life behind me. I've done a lot of things, and I've worked many decades with the developmentally disabled and transitioned when I was in my 50s to taking all that knowledge into seniors because the two populations are quite a bit similar in many ways. You've got the developmentally disabled, some of whom are mentally compromised, and you've got the same thing with the. You've got many of the same medications, you've got the same mobility devices, all sorts of things like that. So it was an easy transition and one I knew I was going to make when I got older, as long as I was still alive, and I'm still here, so I did.
I love it. I love it. Now, one of the things that we saw throughout this whole pandemic was, listen, people having to make choices or not having representation to help them make the choices they needed to make. And, I've had conversations with people around me, different age brackets, who were just like, wow, how do we set things in motion? So if anything were to happen, my voice is still being heard. So, Linda, can you speak to that a little bit? What is something that we can do right now, no matter what age we are, to make sure that our voice is being heard, even if we cannot physically speak?
Well, if you are a senior or someone who has a disability, there in every state there is a disability rights group. Okay, and it depends on the state what their focus is. Back in the early 2000s, I worked for Hawaii Disability Rights Center. I'm in California. There's a California Disability Rights Center. You need to know about these places. Some of them, like Hawaii and California, deal with a lot of issues. Others are just referral sources. But use the referral source if that's all you've got in your state, because they can take you to places and to people that you want to connect with for what you need.
Oh, wow. I never even knew that. That's not even something that's taught. I think it's
No.
like it's not talked about beforehand. It's like you find out after the fact, right?
And you can get free attorneys if you have an attorney issue with your disability. So know that, because that's real important.
Oh, that's valuable information. I know that during the pandemic, of course, having a disability, uh, if you listen to the media, it puts you at a disadvantage. And, for many, Man, we couldn't even see family members. We couldn't see loved ones. If you had someone who was in a nursing home or who was even in a hospital, you couldn't go and be by their side. And so it was really difficult for a lot of people. What did you find that people were kind of able to do during this time to make it past that initial thing of you have to be in a room by yourself? Like, did you see anybody doing anything or hear of any stories of people doing things that really kind of allowed them to step outside the box?
Well, are you talking about being in a hospital or being at home?
Being in, well, let's start within the hospital and then we'll talk about being at home as well.
Okay, I haven't heard much about people in hospitals. I've got to be honest with you. They're pretty isolated, as you said, because they have to be to protect us all and to protect them, but mostly to protect the rest of us. So it is a sad situation. I've had a niece who's had COVID twice, and I've had an ex-husband who had it recently. I don't know if he's gotten over it or what, but we all thought he was going to be gone a long time ago, and that man keeps kicking. And he lost a foot to diabetes and the opposite leg to diabetes, and he's still fighting COVID.
Wow.
So he's got some good genetics going for him.
Right? Gotta have that fight on the inside of you. Gotta have that fight. And then when it comes to people that were home.
Home is a slightly different story. I do see, like, my neighbor right next door is in her 80s and very isolated. She does have a friend that will come on occasion and take her shopping or something like that, but she usually doesn't go shopping. She and I both order everything in. I've stayed home, especially once COVID got really bad. I told my son for Thanksgiving and for Christmas, family, stay away. I don't want to be responsible for giving it to you, and I don't want you to feel guilty for giving it to me. So please, let's just stay away, and that way we'll be able to see each other another Christmas or another Thanksgiving, hopefully. So
Love that.
isolation is difficult for a lot of people. It's not for me. I'm a good loner anyway. So me and my little dog, we take 2 to 3 walks a day and do all that. And I have all my things that I need delivered to me, so I really don't have to go out. The only thing I'm looking at right now is I really need to get to the bank. And I've got checks that only last 90 days. And if I don't get to the bank, so I'm trying to figure out a way to get to the bank. I do have to depend on, because I told you I injured my eye, I do have to depend on senior transportation, which is interesting. I can get there usually in good time, but picking me up is a whole nother thing. And I know I'm wasting a good portion of my day waiting to be picked up and brought back home. So that's been an interesting change because I'm used to driving.
And that speaks to a lot that's been going on too, because I think that is the heart of why so many people have been frustrated during this time, is because what we used to be able to do, what we were, normally able to do, we haven't been able to do. And being able to rely on certain things, like I'm thankful for companies like Instacart and DoorDash and Grubhub and the things they've been able to do during this season. And but you still have things like people still had to go to regular doctor's appointments, and they still had to go to eye doctor's appointments and dentist appointments, and it was just like, wow, pandemonium in trying to get resources to help get you there and get back. And what you said, in a good timing, because nobody wants to be sitting at the doctor's office for half the day.
No, it is, and I'm busy. I'm a busy individual. I'm not somebody who's just sitting at home watching TV. So to be just hung up where I can't do what I need to be doing drives me a little crazy.
I think that speaks to something that Speakeasy podcast listeners, y'all may have an answer to that. But it speaks to the fact that, yeah, is that an industry that really needs support in this time? Is that an industry that should have been booming or getting more support? Where more people are opening up organizations like that? Like that that speaks volumes, because it's not something that's talked about. It's one of those conversations that, people kind of have behind closed doors, but it's something that definitely needs to change.
Senior transportation is an interesting topic that I've been on the edges of for years, because when I was not locked up, I was in networking groups for people and communities that supported seniors. So we often talked about the senior services, and that being one of them. And actually, this one is being really good in this time, in that they're only taking one client at a time, so as not to get anybody sick.
Right.
No matter how small or how large the bus is that comes for you. So I've had some very interesting little rides and big rides just for me.
Oh, it's a personal limousine service.
Which I happen to like, actually. I don't have to wait for anybody to get off. They just go straight to where I need to go. So there is a plus right now that won't be there later. But on the opposite side, they're so busy that picking me up is the issue. I have to
Oh
wait
my goodness.
a while.
Well, I'm glad we were able to shed some light on that in this episode. Like, because again, that's a topic that isn't really talked about when it comes to seniors, when it comes to, advocating for them. And I mean, right now, we had so many issues when it came to senior living facilities and what they were trying to do, and how because they couldn't be at full capacity when it came to their employees, or they had to have the employees getting tested like weekly. Oh my goodness, it took on a life of its own. And so I want to speak to one last thing before we end, is that mental capacity, that mental piece of it. And what is a great way to, especially for our seniors, to keep them in high spirits during this time? What is a way for them to do something for themselves, or what is something that their family and friends and loved ones can be able to do for them?
In most cases, engage however you can, be it Zoom, be it telephone. Being old and being slow and being maybe disabled, you don't get a lot of touch. You don't get a lot of people talking to you about anything that you want to talk about. I just find that seniors don't get valued as they should. We bring, and I'm going to say we because I'm a senior too. We bring a whole history, and I am amazed at how dismissive some people are of the seniors. And it's like, we could teach you so much. And yes, we may not be up on the latest tech. I'm not talking tech. I'm talking life and how to bounce back, or life and how to manage this, that, or something else, because we've all been there. So I find it, old cultures, even the native Indians here, honored their elders and held them in high esteem, and we get kind of shoved off into homes and forgotten. And I mean, not always, but often enough that it's a tragedy to me, because that whole bank of knowledge is just wasted.
I love how you stated that, the whole bank of knowledge. We often talk about, the richest the richest place in the world is the graveyard, because so many people take what they know with them. But you just definitely pinpointed a different vantage point of that, is that, are we even asking them?
One of the things that seniors really need is a purpose. And that's one reason kids are so good. When kids go in, it lightens their day, and they can't get that now. But just being asked, what do you want? What do you need? How can I help you? And ask them questions about their lives. Past, present, future. It doesn't matter. Engage them.
I love that. I love that. Speak Easy podcast listeners. I know you may have had to go and grab a couple tissues on this one. And you may have to go and go ahead, get your phone out, take time, call your grandparents, your great grandparents, reach out, spend some time, even if it's on the other side of the glass at this moment. Don't neglect that time and that space with them. Because it's beneficial not just for them, but it's beneficial for you as well. Oh my goodness, Linda, this has been a great episode. Let the studio audience know where they can find you, and how they can reach out to you for more information about what it is that you do.
Well, I will even give you my phone number. What the heck? It's 805-202-6379. But my website is loveyourlongevity.com. And it will be in transition in a little bit, because I'm trying to redesign it and bring it up to date. It's kind of an older design. So you can get me either way, or you can even email me at speakerholistic@gmail.com.
I love it. Speak Easy podcast listeners, you guys know and understand it is all about you moving forward. And if it touched a heart chord with you today, or it touched an idea and sparked something for you, definitely make sure that you come and let us know. Leave us a review on your favorite podcasting platform. And we could not leave this episode without talking to you about our sponsor, Good Living Now. Good Living Now has black seed oil. We are super excited to be connected with them. And if you go to bit.ly/a greater life, you can connect with Harold LaFlaw, who is the CEO and founder, and who has been using black seed oil to get through his journey with cancer. So with that being said, guys, we appreciate you. Go and check it out, bit.ly/a greater life. And until next time, guys, don't forget to press it out. See ya.